There's a multi-billion-dollar drug war going on in the US right now, but very few people have heard anything about it. In 1992, Congress passed a law to help low-income patients afford the increasingly unaffordable life-saving medications that they needed. It let hospitals buy drugs from pharma companies at a significant discount, but the law was vague. It never actually required the hospitals to pass the money that they saved to the patients. And today, depending on who you ask, this program is either a vital lifeline for the poor or one of the greatest corporate heists in medical history. And it's ignited a brutal conflict between those everybody loves to hate, Big Pharma, and the hospitals you trust to save your life. Let's dive in. So before we get into the conflict between hospitals, health systems, and pharmaceutical companies, let's look at the facts surrounding the 340B program. Back in the early 90s, there was a new Medicaid program that unintentionally made drugs more expensive for hospitals. Congress knew they needed to do something to fix this, so they passed the 340 drug pricing program to help rural and small hospitals, clinics, and health centers that took care of low-income patients or those without insurance. Instead of paying full price, this program gave those hospitals the legal power to buy deeply discounted drugs from pharmaceutical companies. Then they could turn around and sell them at regular prices to insurance companies or whoever was paying the hospital bill for these patients. Basically, it gave them the power to buy low, sell high. In theory, this would move money away from pharmaceutical companies who many believed were just in it for the profits, and instead give it to the hospital so that they could help these patients that couldn't afford these very expensive medications. And in some cases, that actually worked really well. But around 2010, another law, the ACA, led to the 340B program exploding from a small, meaningful help for 150 rural or small hospitals to a massive $66.3 billion program giving over 2,800 hospitals all over America the ability to get discounted drugs. And I want to reiterate, these didn't always make it to the patients. But hold up, before we get into all that, I think we should hear the hospital side of the story. I mean, they're the ones that are in it for the patients, not just profits, right? What's their explanation for not passing on discounts to their patients? Well, following outcries for change, here's what the American Hospital Association fired back with. We urge Congress to not allow the self-interested needs of the pharmaceutical industry to supplant the needs of patients who rely on the 340B program for access to affordable, high-quality healthcare every day. If I'm reading this right, they're basically saying that all the criticism of the 340B program is just a big PR push from Big Pharma. But that's not all they said. Here's the 3 things they said for why the 340B program should not be changed. Number 3, it's their only way to fund community help. They wrote, hospitals that qualify for the 340B program spent nearly $100 billion in 2022 alone on community benefits. This is only possible with the support of the 340B program. Translation, if you take that money away, those local food banks and those free clinics that they run are gonna disappear. Number 2, hospitals are actually broke. According to 2023 data, a staggering 44% of hospitals participating in the 340B program operated with a negative margin, meaning they were losing money. For those hospitals to even keep their doors open, the discounts from the 340B program are the only thing stopping them from going bankrupt. And number 1, drug prices are rising too fast. A recent Senate report highlights that in 2025 alone, 688 drugs, many for cancer and asthma, experienced price increases well above inflation. The argument being, how can we give patients discounts when pharma keeps raising prices every year? So that's their position. Basically, this is Big Pharma's fault. And maybe you have your mind made up here. You're on the hospital side of the story. Down with Big Pharma. Well, let's get to the rest of the story here. So as I mentioned, the 340B program evolved from a modest initiative to a $66.3 billion program. And the reality of this drug war is, when you have $66 billion on the table in a federal rulebook that is very unclear, both sides are going to try to get theirs. And that's exactly what many in Big Pharma think that hospitals have done here. The argument is that hospitals have stopped using 340B as a safety net and started using it as a massive, unregulated opportunity to increase their own profits, or operating revenues for the nonprofits. Here's the 3 big issues both Big Pharma and other critics point to. Number 3, the safety net is shrinking, but the program is growing. Originally, this was for the smallest, poorest, maybe even rural hospitals. But today, over 40% of all US hospitals are in the program. How can nearly half of American hospitals claim to be safety nets? Remember, to qualify for this program, hospitals must serve a certain percentage of low-income patients. But if you hit that requirement, and let's say your other 80% of your patients are high income, you can still get the drug discounts. Number 2, some believe that buy low, sell high is a scam. Hospitals get these drugs at massive discounts, and then they turn around and they sell them at full price in most cases. That's called their spread. It's the money that they make from buying low and selling high. Now here's the thing, if a hospital is considered a 340B hospital, it can actually do this with all of their patients, not just the low income ones. Take a look at this chart. The spread, or the money that a hospital makes from doing this, is totally different based on who actually pays the medical bill. If a low income patient is over 65 and has Medicare, then the hospital is going to make a decent amount of money. If a person is low income and qualifies for Medicaid, then the hospital makes almost nothing. nothing. But if they have patients with work insurance or corporate insurance, they can make ridiculous money from this program. Critics argue that hospitals that do this are essentially taxing your insurance company and pocketing the change without actually lowering your copays or the amount that you pay. This in turn raises insurance costs for everyone in the future. USC researchers put it this way: as 340B has expanded, there's been arguably less emphasis on providing reduced price care to the uninsured and more focus on revenue generation. And number one, it disproportionately harms the small and rural hospitals it was designed to help. Because the program is tied to the spread, it creates a weird incentive. A wealthy hospital in a rich suburb with lots of patients who have great insurance can get massive revenue from these discounts. But a true safety net hospital, one that mostly treats patients with Medicaid or no insurance at all, makes almost nothing because there's not a big spread for them to collect. But this story is still developing and there are billions of dollars at stake. We'll keep an eye out in the future. If you found this video interesting and you'd like to see more like it in the future, please consider subscribing for more. This is Tyler Dutchover. Thanks for watching.